So I want to show you how to create backing tracks in Logic Pro Audio. Now, if you're like me, you've got a family, you've got a job, you can't commit to a band, but you still want to play out. Well, the way to do that is to play open mics where there's a house band, and you can work in with the house band, whether you're a guitar player, bass player, singer, etc. You can work in with the band. Now, if you want this to be successful, there's two things you need. One, you need to know the material, and two, you need to have good timing. It's tough to work on that if you don't have a band to play with. So one of the things I do is I work with backing tracks. I create them in Logic Pro or GarageBand, and I'll have a downloadable template you can use to create your own. But I'll show you how I create them and walk you through some of the different scenarios they can help. Now, as I said earlier, if you want to have a successful experience, you definitely want to have good timing. You want to know the material. So it's not enough to just know this song is G-A-D and the chorus goes to E and A and then back to G-A-D. There's a lot of subtle intricacies in songs. Songs are rarely that simple. There are transitions, etc. You want to practice in the real world as much as you can. And if you don't have a band, it's tough to commit to that. So that's where backing tracks come in. So I can show you one that I'm working on right now, and then I'll show you how I create these. So here's the one I'm working on with the Chic song Le Freak. So that'll give you an idea of the way you can use them. Now, a couple of things I want to point out. So this is a template that I have that'll be downloadable. And what I have in here is I have a couple different inputs. If you've never used Logic Audio, it's a really nice program. I love it. Very simple to use. It builds on sort of the basics of GarageBand. So if you've used GarageBand, it's a great next step. I will have a separate video with a GarageBand downloadable template. I'm saying template in air quotes because GarageBand has built-in templates, and you have to apply a little trick in order to get a template in GarageBand. But I'll show you how to do that in a separate video. Anyway, a couple things I want to point out in this backing track right here. Number one, I have a couple of different inputs here. So if this is an acoustic song, I've got a 6-string acoustic input. You can just connect directly to this input, this track, so you can work with the backing track. I've got a rock guitar one as well. So if you want something that's heavily overdriven, I've got that in here. I've got Helix guitar and Helix mic inputs. So if you happen to use a Helix floor unit like I do, I've got those in here as well. Once you go Helix, you won't go back. Really happy with the Helix unit. Separate topic though. But anyway, that was the input I was playing through, doing the sample there. So if you sing or want to use microphone, Helix also has a microphone input, and that's actually what I'm talking through right now. And then I have a count in. Now I have a MIDI count in, and this is a hi-hat. You can change this if you want to use something other than a hi-hat. You can use different sounds. The reason I use MIDI though is for its flexibility. So you can change the sound of it, number one. And number two, up at the top, we've got the tempo here. I always set the tempo and the key to whatever the true song is in. And that way you can start to ingrain that feel And so if you have this set up as a MIDI input, you can change this. So if I want to change the tempo to, I'm just going to make it real slow. You can change the tempo. And now when I play this, you can see the tempo is real slow. If that was recorded, that would be a little trickier. So if it's MIDI input, I've got that already included on this backing track. That's the reason why I do that, so that you can change the tempo and you can use that as the lead into the song. All right, so that is a working backing track, one that I'm using right now. Another thing I want to show you, last thing here, is so I've got the guitar tracks muted. But one of the things that's nice about having separate tracks here, and the backing track company I use gets these really close to the original. These are not original backing tracks. These are ones that I buy, and I'll show you how to get them and download the separate tracks in a minute. But what you can do is if you're learning a song and you're not quite sure how the multiple guitars interplay, you can solo on a specific track. So let's solo on the guitar track. So you can hear exactly what's going on that track. You can solo a separate one. Hear what that one's doing. So guitar or songs that have a lot of different guitar tracks, you sometimes have to pick and choose what is most important to the song at a certain time. Unless you've got a band with multiple guitar players, sometimes you've got to create your own arrangement that makes the most sense. And being able to zero in on the different tracks is really helpful to pick and choose what it is that you're going to focus on and hear it in isolation so you can truly hear what the guitar player is doing. Okay, so last we're going to talk about this track. Now, I'm going to open up my backing track. This will be the downloadable file I'll have attached to this. So, say we want to start with a new backing track. So, we go to Logic, the File menu, New from Template. And yes, we want to close this song. And the template that I've created is called Empty Backing Track, and that's the one you'll want to open after you download it. So we open this up. Okay, and here we have the different tracks that I was talking about. I'll explain this. I'll go through this quickly again. The 6-string acoustic is an input. If this is an acoustic song you're working on, if you're working on a song, an overdriven song, you can choose different amplifiers, different settings, etc. But that's just a generic 70s rock built into Logic Pro Audio that you can use. If you happen to use a Helix unit, you can use this to send your guitar through. And same if you're using a Helix and you're using a microphone, so you're playing and singing at the same time, you can do that with this. Here's the count in, and then here are just placeholders for different tracks that you'll be dragging in. So, drums, hand clap, you can rename these. So, you could call this percussion, bass, electric guitar 1, 2, lead guitar, electric piano. You can add more if you want to add more. You can right click this, and one of my favorite things is new track with duplicate settings. So you can grab another vocal track if that's what you're looking for. But you can add, take away, etc., whatever you need. This is just a generic setup for a backing track. This has served me well for a couple of years now. I've edited it, made changes to it, etc. But at this point, this is pretty well locked in and solid. All right, so now we want to actually download some files to create a backing track. Well, I'm going to show you a website. This is the website I use at this point, it's May 2019. I don't have any sort of affiliate relationship with this company. It just happens to be the only company that I use. And it is karaokeversion.com. So at the top of the site, karaoke-version.com. When you come here, you can search for all kinds of songs. Let's search for Mississippi Queen. And you find the song that you're looking for, and you can buy it. Now, what I recommend is that you buy the custom backing track, and what that allows you to do is similar to the backing track that I showed you, is that you can have all of the different tracks in isolation. Now, one of the things that you can do is similar to Logic Pro. You can solo or mute out certain tracks. So say you want to download Mississippi Queen, and you're not gonna sing. You have a singer, you're just gonna play guitar. So you just want to mute out the guitar tracks. You can do that and download this as one file. So in this file, you'll get the lead vocal, you'll get the piano, you'll get the bass, cowbell, drum. You just won't have the guitars. You can download that, and then you're done. You just drag it into Logic Pro. And I'll show you how that works. So I'm going to download this. This will generate. Now, this is a quick way to do this, and this is fine. I personally like the isolation of the different tracks. Sometimes I like to mute out different tracks and just play with the drums, so I can purely focus on timing. Sometimes I like, adding in the vocals back in, so I have cues on when I'm going to move into from the verse to the chorus, etc. I like to work with these in different ways. So I like downloading these tracks individually. However, if you just want to quickly get into it, this is the way to do it. So now that just downloaded. So I'm going to drag that file into Logic Pro. Okay, so drag that in here, and I'll just throw it on the first track, drums. You can name this whatever you want. So I'll just call it backing band. Okay, so this song technically doesn't really need a count in because it has the cowbell kicking it off, but we'll at least play this in, and you can hear how it sounds. Now, notice I muted out the guitars, so you're not hearing those. Okay, so one of the nice things that Karaoke Version does is they give you the tempo and the key of the song. When you're playing live with people, if you play with these backing tracks, this is a bit of a warning. You're going to get used to this computer-driven tempo that is always perfectly in time. When you start to play with real people, you'll see they vary the tempo a little bit, and you have to be flexible to be able to work with that. These backing tracks will start to build in a robotic feel, or it has a tendency to build a robotic feel, so you have to be aware of that, and be willing to work with and without it. But it is a huge accelerator if you're looking to improve your timing and truly get to know the material you're working on. So I think the good outweighs the bad here. I just wanted to note it, that it can have a tendency to make you feel a bit robotic, and I struggled with that myself when I started playing open mics, that I had been working with backing tracks so long that I had a bit of a robotic feel, but have since made the transition so I can work with a band and have some variability and feel in my timing. Anyway, I digress. So this is 140 beats per measure and in the key of E. So let's go back to our backing track, and we'll set this to 140. and this is in the key of E. Now, I do like setting the key as well. So one reason is because it's a reminder. And what was that? E major or minor? No, in E major. Okay, so one of the reasons is it's a reminder of what key you're in when you go to play the song. That's one of the first things a backing band's going to ask you, what key you want to play this in. This is in E. There's a lot of times the karaoke version songs have a bit of a lead in here. So I'm just going to pull this down so that it starts truly on the first measure. There we go. Okay, so let me dial up an overdriven tone. Yeah, that'll do. Not quite as good as Leslie West's tone that he got on this song. My understanding is he played through a Sun vocal amplifier, which is how he got that unique tone. Truly a classic tone. I love it. I don't have that quite dialed in here, but close enough for government work. All right, so now I am playing through the Helix right now, and I'm just going to give you a little sample of how this works, how this backing track itself works. So you've got your entire band, vocals, etc., all in one track. So that's a quick way to get yourself up and running. Now, you already know how I feel about having separated tracks, so I'm going to show you how to download the separated tracks. So you've got isolated tracks, and then you can truly dial in and out what you don't want to work with. So let me kill this track right now and do karaoke version. Now, one of the many things I love about this is that you can download these tracks in isolation, or you can do what I did previously. You can just choose the tracks you want and download them. This is why you want to choose custom when you're buying these tracks. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to solo each of these tracks, and I'll edit the video. I'm going to have to download each of these separately, but I'll edit the video so we can jump ahead here. But so this is the solo button, so I'm just going to download the drum track first and click the little download MP3 button. Takes a minute for them to generate the track. All right, and there we go. There's that track. And like I said, I'm going to jump ahead here and just download each of these in succession. So here are the separate tracks that we downloaded. So now we just have to drag them into Logic Pro. Now, one of the things that drives me nuts about Logic Pro, and I do love the application, but this one drives me nuts. What would be nice is if I drag all these in, that they all lined up exactly the same way I drag them in. However, if you do this, it will work. However, they get jumbled up. So say you created your tracks here in the same exact order you have them here. They don't line up the same way. And if there's one thing you're probably noticing, I'm a little bit particular in these tracks, and so I like to know exactly what the track is, and I like to turn it on and off. And so I like to have the control to turn it on and off, rather. So I drag these in individually so that I can make sure that I have these lined up properly. Alrighty, so I'm going to start with the bass here. I'm just going to go right in order. So I'm going to throw that into bass, and I drag it right to the second measure. So you can see we've got our count in, and then our music starts. Next one is the cowbell, which I'm going to drag into percussion, and I'll change that to cowbell. Okay, now we'll drag in the drum kit. All right, so then we don't need these 2 tracks, so we can just delete these. And there we go. Now we have our backing track with all of the different tracks, and we can solo different tracks, etc. Turn on what we want and what we don't want. Prepare for your open mic. You can learn the different transitions, how to go from the solo back into playing rhythm guitar, etc. When you are playing and you are the only guitar player, there's often multiple hats you need to wear, and this allows you to pick out the different pieces of the arrangement that makes most sense, that audiences are going to be paying attention to, expecting. So one of the things I really love about this is the creativity it gives you in picking the different parts of the tracks and picking the best, and staying as true to the spirit of the original as possible. So that's how I create backing tracks in Logic Pro. I will be uploading another one for how you can do it in GarageBand. If you haven't used Logic Pro and you're a relatively serious musician, amateur musician like myself, or pro, I highly recommend it. It's a great tool. I started with GarageBand, and the transition is near seamless. You're given tons of options that I don't know all the options yet, but making the jump to Logic Pro Audio from GarageBand is really easy. In fact, I've never seen a easier transition when moving up in software. So highly recommend Logic Pro, but I will add a video and a template for GarageBand as well in a separate video. In the links down below, you will find a link to this backing track that you can use as a starter if you're looking to create backing tracks of your own. And look forward to seeing you at an open mic sometime in the future. Thanks.